You know, when you look at the history of baseball, especially with Montreal Expos alumni, there are many players that were either part of history or made history. Now, this player best be described as a good utility infielder, outfielder, really impressed at times and was very talented. But he holds the record. The only time I think it happened, and it'll never happen again, he got hits for two Major League Baseball teams in the same day, with the Mets and the Expos. So today we're going to talk about the very curious case of the very talented and very handsome, like Randall Grichuk handsome, Joel Youngblood. Now, Joel Randolph Youngblood III was a versatile player who could play many different positions as well as pinch hit. He played every position in Major League Baseball, but didn't serve as a pitcher, even though I think he could. After his playing career ended, he served as a third base coach for Arizona for a time. Now, Youngblood was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds out of Stephen F. Austin High School in the second round of the 1970 Major League Baseball draft. After a full 6 seasons in their farm system, in which he batted .275 with 47 home runs and 274 RBIs, he made his Major League debut on April 13, 1976. That year, he batted only .193 for the Big Red Machine. The season, he swept the National League Championship Series and the World Series, but he made his own one and only appearance as a catcher that season. Now, during spring training the following year, he was dealt to St. Louis for noted relief pitcher Bill Caudle. He hit a home run in his first at-bat as a Cardinal, albeit during an exhibition game. In 25 regular season games with the Cards, Youngblood, who batted 185 with just one run batted in, had no home runs that season. Now, the righty batter, who also threw right, was part of Major League Baseball history when on June 15, 1977, the Mets traded Tom Seaver to the Reds for Pat Zachary, Doug Flynn, Steve Anderson, and Dan Norman, and for Youngblood, and Dave Kingman to the San Diego Padres for Bobby Valentine and minor league pitcher Paul Siebert. Somewhat more quietly that day, he also acquired Youngblood from the Cardinals for Mike Phillips. To make room for Youngblood in the Mets' active roster, player-manager Joe Torre retired as a player. So he's part of the big trade day where they got Zachary, Flynn, Henderson, Norman, and also the trade of Dave Kingman to the Padres for Bobby Valentine, and also Joe Torre's retirement. Now, with the Mets, Youngblood emerged as something of a star in a team that consistently finished last or close to it throughout his time in New York City. He was the sole Mets representative on the National League team for the 81 Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and that strike-shortened season, he hit .350 and 143 at-bats to mark his career high. Now, on August 4th, 1982, this is where history was definitely made. He became the only player in history to get hits for two different squads in two different cities on the same day. Youngblood started the day as the starting center fielder for the Mets on the road in Chicago against the Cubs, who played all their home games in the afternoon at the time due to Wrigley Field having yet to install lights. Now, in the third inning, hitting off of future Hall of Famer Ferguson Jenkins, Youngblood drove in 2 runs with a single. He was on deck in the next inning when he was called back to the dugout, where he was informed that he had been traded to my team, the Montreal Expos. Not only had he been traded, but the Expos had requested that Youngblood made himself available for the game later that evening in Philly, as they were particularly short-handed on players. After saying goodbye to the Mets teammates, checking out of his hotel room in Chicago, and then having to return to Wrigley Field to retrieve his fielding glove, Youngblood boarded a 6:05 p.m. flight from O'Hare and landed in Philadelphia approximately 90 minutes later. There was no indication he was dressed like an Expo on the flight. When he reached Veterans Stadium, where the Expos were playing the Phillies, during the 6th inning, Expo manager Jim Fanning called on Youngblood to pinch hit shortly after his arrival. Facing another future Hall of Famer in Steve Carlton, Youngblood reached on an infield single when Manny Trio could not field the ball cleanly. No one has accomplished this feat since. Now, I watched that game against Philadelphia, and when he came up to the plate, I think it was Jim Van Horn, our announcer, saying he was in New York, playing for New York this afternoon, and now he's in the Expo lineup. You might be seeing history, ladies and gentlemen. And sure enough, the Trio case might have been called an error, but I think the what do you call it, the stats people were being kind. You'll never see this again. This is like somebody playing for two hockey teams in the same day. It's not going to happen unless it's Boston in the afternoon and an evening game on the West Coast. Now, following the season, he signs a free agent with the San Francisco Giants. As a utility player, he appeared 124 games for the 83 Giants. In 84, his role with the Giants became more defined as he made 117 appearances at third. However, his low fielding percentage at .887 at position returned him to his utility role for the remainder of his Giants career. Now, Youngblood eventually signed as a free agent back with the Reds in '89. After one season with them, he joined the Sun City Rays of the Senior Professional Baseball Association in 1990. He had a batting average of .326 with 4 home runs and 16 RBIs just when the league folded during the midseason. Now, in 1,408 games over 14 seasons, he posted a .269 batting average, .969 for a .365.9, with 453 runs, 180 doubles, 23 triples, 80 home runs, 422 RBIs, 60 stolen bases, 330 bases on balls, a .329 on-base percentage, and a .392 slugging percentage. He finished his career with a .955 fielding percentage and played at least one inning at every position except for pitcher in his major league career. Now, he eventually served as a coach for the Reds, Brewers, and Orioles in the 1990s. He also managed the Kane County Cougars, an Orioles farm club in the Midwest League in 1992. Now, in '99, he left baseball to work in sales for a computer company, but returned in 2007 to take a coaching job with the Arizona Diamondbacks organization. After serving as a minor league outfield and base running coordinator, he joined the Diamondbacks as a third base coach in 2010. And in 2011, again, he returned to the position of outfield base running coordinator for the Diamondbacks. Now, Youngblood can best be described as your perfect utility player. But not to sound completely bizarre, a native of Houston, Texas, if he was in the 2021 Major League Baseball, he could probably be a starter in some of the second division squads, because he wasn't going to get 20 home runs, but he was going to get 10, 55 RBIs, hit 270. The only position he had trouble with was third base. He wasn't a vacuum cleaner at third base. If anything, he was a stationary vacuum cleaner. He'd suck up the balls, but he couldn't make the clear throw, as we say. But that night, there was no internet back then. So when he came to the plate, I guess the French announcer says, "Is this a Joel Youngblood that played with the Mets this week?" Because he thought he was traded the day before. And the other announcer said, the ticker said he's been traded today. So a pretty bizarre situation. But just look at how nice looking this man is. You look at the nice looking baseball players through the years. He could have done a career as an actor, or but he was part of that Reds lineup that won the title in '76. And let me tell you, they had a good lineup. Just to go over the lineup for the '76 Mets there. You had Bench, Morgan, Plummer, Bailey, Concepcion, Rose, Foster, Youngblood, of course, Geronimo, Mike Lum, Dan Dreesen, Dougie Flynn, Tony Perez, Ken Griffey, Fred Norman, Ed Armbruster, Pedro Barbeau, Don Gullett, Will McEnany, Gary Nolan, Pat Zachary, who was the Rookie of the Year that year, Santo Alcala, Jack Willingham, Manny Sammartino, Sarmiento, and Raleigh Eastwick. And again, the coaches, Nixon, Sherber, Shepard, and of course the big Ted Kluszewski, and Sparky as manager. So a very, very balanced, probably one of the most balanced team of history. And if you look at the '76 post-title interviews at Pete Rose, he gives a credit to all the utility players on the team for making it good. And he mentioned Bob Bailey, and I think he mentioned Youngblood. And like I said, I wonder if any relation to the Rob Lowe hockey character in 1986. Maybe did a movie Youngblood because it would get all the female fans of Joel Youngblood in the theater thinking he was in the movie. Who knows? Anyway, my mom said he was the most handsome player she had ever saw, and my mom had good taste. So that's the story of Joel Youngblood, and he's double on with the Mets and Expos. Thanks for listening. Bye.